One, two, one, two, one, two. Welcome again to another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. I'm your host, Lionel McDonald. So shout out to the ends. This is probably one of the three best hoodies that I bought in the last 2 years. So, you know, Canadian built. Shout out to the guys that made it. What I think is so unique about it is that I was able, and it's tough to see on screen, but it's actually I got it can put whatever I wanted on it, and I put the spots of the GTA. So I got from Scarborough to Halton to Markham to Durham region to you name it. So shout out to the ends on this pretty dope hoodie. So today's episode we're going to talk about is New Balance. And so why is Lionel talking about New Balance? Lionel was a Jordan guy. There's so many things that are happening right now in the sneaker world, and we know the laws of supply and demand and so many other things, but we definitely are hearing there's a shift, call it an underground shift, but I think it's becoming more and more mainstream. So Nike is the king or the queen, depending how you want to view it. Still is in the sneaker world. They probably have more than half of the sneaker sales that are happening out there. But probably then Adidas is second, and then there's a bunch of other brands that have the rest of the pie. So one of the brands that we're definitely seeing over recent times is New Balance make a resurgence. So New Balance, like for real, like isn't that the shoe that they call it the dad shoe? And it's like, well, hold on for a second. Dad shoe, first of all, dad shoes, as we all know, from Balenciagas to some of the things that inspired Kanye, those types of shoes have made a resurgence. So yes, New Balance is on an incline. I would say at the same time, there have been some really cool things that the brand has done. Arguably my favorite silhouette, I actually have a couple of them with me today. These ones from years ago. So any of the all over color ones. So you got navy, whether you got black, whether you got gray is probably the memorable one. There's a one that recently came out that the end is falling off, and they've repositioned how the shoe looks like. And then any of the fun color makeups, like this royal one that I have in my hand, that's got royal pops on the toe bumper, and then again they're really made out of the suede. So salute to New Balance, and once again bringing the 574 back to life, and that's my favorite shoe. And I know some people are watching on YouTube, so you definitely can check it out of what I'm referring to. But definitely we're also seeing other models make a splash. So it's great that you have a brand that you have one shoe, Reebok's got the Reebok question, so or the Club C, like they got a couple things going, but New Balance is really seeing traction with so many other models. We've seen obviously the 990 is been a resurgence, and it's a tech running shoe, but on feet, some of the collaborations that have been done with it, it's really starting to gain some traction. And then we're also seeing it with some of the higher end models, when we're going into the thousands, that are definitely resonating with the customer. But I think the one that everyone wants to talk about is the 550. So what's the 550? So 550, you look at it, it's like, isn't that like that dad shoe that many other retailers that used to carry, and it was out, but we don't even see it anymore. Like that's what I buy my dad for Christmas year after year. He just wants a new pair. By the end of the year, he's cutting the grass in it, and that's it. Like, no, 550 is totally different thing. Like, so give you a little bit of a history lesson. 550 has been out since like 1989. It was the shoe that was the on-court shoe for many of the NBA players. So just an example of one of them, James Worthy wore wore a model of that shoe. I think he wore the high cut version of that shoe way back in the 90s, and was maybe not exactly that shoe, but definitely was an ambassador for New Balance back in before we got to primetime Jordan time. So the New Balance 550 is definitely something that is gained traction. There recently was a collaboration with a designer out of New York. I'm missing the name here, but I think where we've really seen the New Balance 550, uh, uh, excuse me in my pronunciation, but the Amin Leodor is a lifestyle brand that's based in New York. You know, they've worked with Puma and some other brands, but they collaborated to make a 550, and it's all white with, you know, it's got a little bit of gray and I think a little bit of navy pop to it, and it on feet looks like fire. And I think, you know, now that New Balance is really realizing that this shoe has traction. There's people that are willing to pay for it. Geez, I saw this shoe online and people were paying up to almost $1,000, even more, for this limited edition shoe. And I know that they're going back to make other collaborations, but I know that in the world for classic shoes, Air Force One, probably followed by Air Max 90, and then we talk about Superstar and some others. That's the top echelon would probably be being led by Air Force. But I would tell you that the times are changing, and the New Balance 550 is definitely making a run. So we've seen some things come out in 2021 already that is definitely making a splash. You know, we saw earlier there was a collaboration called the College Pack, where there was a 574 that was all orange with a 550, and I'd love it. I didn't get a chance to get it. You know, it was one of those things that I thought was incredibly amazing because of the colors, but it also really inspired me because it represented Syracuse. I think that was some of the inspiration behind it. So 550 is really taken off. I know I have a really old pair from way back when, you know, I was just trying to buy, you know, probably way back in 2007, 2008. I have an old pair of New Balance 550s from back in the day, and those were something that didn't really resonate at that time. But I love 574s, and they did a couple other things and tried to get a couple other ones just to round out a collection. I was trying to have a very diversified collection back, you know, in the late 2000s before we got to 2010. But the 550 is really taken some serious traction. And now that there's so many color reiterations, so we saw, like, even just this summer, like, they've put 550, and it was in boutiques, it was in very small places that you could find it, but we saw colors and we saw pops. Like, there's a Bulls version, there is a white and purple. I call that's the Raptors 550. There is definitely a white and all white with a gray bottom. There was an all white with navy blue, which I've seen a lot of people on the streets wearing. There was definitely a white and black, which is probably the most common one that's out there. And then there's some really exciting colors that come out. I think I mentioned it on a previous episode or upcoming episode, depending on how I launch them. But there are two special colors, a white and navy and a white and Carolina, that are coming out. So New Balance has got something happening. You know, that's like 5 models that the resale market is interested. The people are trying to get it on feet. Like, for even the resellers to want to think that this has value says something that there's a resurgence for the brand. Like, outside Nike, I would probably say some of these New Balance shoes outside Yeezy are having some of the greatest traction in terms of demand that's out there. And I think it's only going to grow. I think there's probably some great things lined up in 2022. And I think, you know, where the big opportunity is, how do we get these available for women's and kids? Like, most of these 550s and 574 still come in men's sizes. 574 does come in women's and does come in kids, but I think opening up 990s and some of the other things and making them more available to women, I think is really going to move the needle. There's so many great things that we're seeing from other brands out there that really have an opportunity to resonate with people and really to make a difference in terms of giving us a diversified sneaker culture. So 550, I think, is here to stay for a while, and I'm going to say that it is going to be the number 2 shoe out there. But I think this is a significant option to buying a Superstar or an Air Force One. And we know there's a lot of shortages, and so hey, check your local retailer. There's lots out there. And 550s are going to start showing up on shelves, and you'll be able to get it. You can look online and 550s will be available. So check it out. 550 is definitely a shoe that's here to stay. A lot of opportunity, a lot of options right this, but I think really loving all brands, and all brands are doing some great things, is just pick and choose what you like. I think that would be the wise words of a sneakerhead that's been in the game for a long time. You know, really just hear the story. Why is it important? Do you like it? And buy what you like, and then wear it. You know, leave the days of stacking for a raining day. I fortunately saw a guy, pull out a beautiful pair of shoes the other day, and the sole ripped off because he didn't wear it. So love your sneaks, wear your sneaks. Thanks again. It's Lionel for another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. Love the 550 and the 574. They're amazing shoes. Great stuff is happening with other brands, most notably New Balance. So that's our feature for today. Thanks again for listening. Bye for now.